This week I've got a happy, cheerful song to lighten your mood. Until you watch the video or listen closely to the lyrics, at which point you will realise that this song is actually pretty bleak, and it directly foreshadows the singer's tragic and untimely demise. I'm talking about the Models and their 1985 hit, Barbados. So, wake up to anger and mixed emotions and join me for this week's 80s Song of the Day. The Models came out of the late 70s punk new wave scene. They formed in Melbourne in 1978, and the initial lineup was Sean Kellie, Pierre Voltaire, Ash Wednesday and Janice Friedenfelds, who went by Johnny Crash. Now, the lineup of the band was pretty chaotic for a lot of the time. The later and better known lineup was Mainstay Kellie on guitar, James Freud on vocals and bass, Roger Mason on keyboards, Barton Price on drums, and James Valentine on saxophone. Backing singers in the group included Kate Ceberano and Canadian-born Wendy Matthews. Their debut album had the tongue-twisting name of Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta Echo Foxtrot. It came out in 1980, and despite low sales, it became a cult favourite on the pub circuit. Their label Mushroom Records initially agreed to the band's request not to issue singles from the album, a sign of respect for the band's desire to be album-oriented. The Models were known early on for constantly writing new material instead of repeating old songs in the studio. So many fan favourites remained unreleased until an archival compilation came out in 2002. Pioneers of post-punk and new wave sound, they mixed their guitars with pop hooks and a sly sense of humour. They were heavily supported by Youth Radio Triple J and community stations, and their inventive videos were regulars on Countdown, which helped to build a national following. Fellow Aussie groups like In Excess were early fans. Chris Murphy, the manager for In Excess, later took on the Models, and he pushed them towards a more commercial, danceable sound, which helped sharpen their chart ambitions. The 1981 10-inch mini-album Cut Lunch began life as demos that impressed the band so much that they just released them as is, and it includes a really quirky fan favourite, Two Cabs to the Toucan. Andrew Duffield, one-time keyboardist for the band, explained that it chronicled a night out inspired by the band's desire to go clubbing at the Toucan Club in Adelaide after playing a concert as the support act for the Police. And that's the band The Police, not the local constabulary. In 1983, they released The Pleasure of Your Company. That was their third album. And from that came their first real hit single, I Hear Motion. Their breakthrough single, it took them to number 12 here in Australia and effectively broke them into the mainstream. Then in 1985 they released our song of the day, Barbados, sung by James Freud. Barbados hit number 2 in Australia, and it's a deeply personal and autobiographical song. Full of shiny tropical holiday sounds, Barbados is very dark lyrically, dealing with the issues of James Freud's alcoholism and self-destruction. It was co-written by bassist and singer James Freud and Andrew Duffield. And as I said, it reached number 2 on the charts and spent 19 weeks there in total, which is an unusually long stay for an Australian single of the time. I put that down to both the tune's mainstream impact and slow burn appeal. Stylistically, it's definitely new wave. It's got bright synths, punchy bass and a pop chorus, but the lyrics are so bleak. In the song, the holiday in Barbados is really a metaphor for escape through drinking rather than an actual island getaway. The line, "I am the voice left from drinking," became the title of Freud's autobiography, which shows just how closely he linked this song to his real life. Fans often interpret the female character in the song as a lost love, ruined by his drinking, with the relationship and the addiction completely intertwined. Freud was said to have described it as being about a tumultuous, alcohol-fueled relationship that he was in. And so that does again fit with the imagery. Looking at the video, again it contrasts a sunny, carefree look with disturbing imagery of Freud and the band drunk in a bar. Again, that cheerful sound / dark subject tension. There's additional black and white scenes that show Freud driving a Jeep and at one point pointing a gun at his own head, and you can imagine where that eventually ends up. All the more haunting now after Freud's real-life suicide in November of 2010, which many fans retrospectively connect to the video's themes, even though the exact circumstances of his death have never been publicly released. Barbados was a major part of the model's commercial peak, arriving just before Out of Mind, Out of Sight, which gave them their first and only #1 single. Both of those hits were sung and written by Freud rather than usual frontman Sean Kellie, and that shifted a lot of the band's identity towards Freud's glam pop instincts. Models eventually went into hiatus in 1988 after a decade of touring and financial pressures, having released 5 studio albums, including their final one, Models Media, in '87. Sean Kellie attempted to start a solo career with a single, Thank You Good Night, which didn't really go anywhere, and finding himself at a bit of a loose end, he teamed up for a project with Andrew Duffield and James Valentine, also formerly of the Models, along with INXS's Gary Beers and Ganga Jane's Jeffrey Stapleton. And then Wendy Matthews, who had done backing vocals with the Models and was actually in a relationship with Sean Kellie at the time. They called this band Absent Friends. They released one album, Here's Looking Up Your Address, in 1990, and they had a cover of Dorothy Moore's 1976 song, I Don't Want to Be With Nobody But You, proving a significant commercial success, peaking at #4 and winning the Gong for Best Single at the '91 ARIA Awards. In 2010, the Models were inducted into the ARIA Hall of Fame, Wendy Matthews actually doing the honours, and highlighting their influence on Australian alternative pop. James Freud was notably absent from the event, put down to being unwell, but in reality his issues with alcoholism meant he couldn't be anywhere where people were drinking. So there you have it, Barbados by the Models. That's your 80s song of the day. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you want to celebrate your love for great 80s music, join me next time for another 80s song of the day.